Namaste.
Namaste.
Ramana, this morning I'd like you to meet our new guests. The lady over there in the white shirt is Madeleine from Russia.
Okay, Madeleine.
And aside her in the yellow shirt is Angelica from Russia.
Okay, Angelica.
And aside her is Valerie.
I'm sorry?
Valerie.
Valerie. Okay.
Okay. Then from Germany we have Hans.
Okay.
And here is
Hans.
Ute.
Okay.
And from Croatia we have here Dennis.
Okay, Dennis.
And here is Marta.
Marta. Okay.
And then for the first time in this year you are meeting Lucas.
Okay, Lucas.
And he's bringing Cheryl.
Cheryl. Okay.
And Jewel has arrived.
Jewel. Where's Jewel? Oh, there she is. Okay.
And Linda.
Linda.
And Shruti is here.
And Shruti. Hello, Shruti. Okay. Well, namaste to all.
Namaste.
And welcome to this ashram, and welcome back, those of you who are returning. Happy to have you here. And we have a question. Let's do the questions first. This is from Hans. Hans. In my business in Germany, all is okay. Here in India, I forget things and lose things. How can I be more focused here? Well, Hans, being more focused means being more in your mind and utilizing the mind more intentionally or purposefully. Being here, I'm assuming when you say being here, do you find this to be true throughout India, or just here in Tiruvannamalai, or any particular place in India that you don't have as much of a focus? Can you translate? I'm sorry?
Can I translate it for him?
Yes.
Fragt, ob deine Unfähigkeit, Fokus zu halten, sich speziell auf Tiruvannamalai beschränkt, oder ist das ganz allgemein in Indien?
Generally in India.
Generally in India.
Just generally in India.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what comes to me in answer to your question is, of course, when you are in your business in Germany, does he understand enough English to understand what I'm saying? In your business in India, you are using your mind. And your mind has its own track to run on. Huh? You understand that? Okay. So it's quite simple for you to be in, I would say, the groove of your mind, and what is already the conditioned patterns of your mind. It is easy enough for your mind to stay focused in your responsibilities and duties of your business. India, in general, all over, But specifically in certain places, particularly here in Tiruvannamalai, your mind is going to be less focused, and that will be quite natural, because here in India, it's not so much the focus of the mind, it's more abiding in the no mind, in the pure awareness of being. And what I would suggest is that you just relax and let go in this pure awareness of being and take full advantage of it while you're here. You won't have any trouble returning to the patterns of life that you already have established in Germany in your business. But while you're here, to what extent that you can let go of all of these patterns, and don't be concerned about the inability to focus your mind, actually surrender the tendency to want to focus your mind and let go of the mind into the pure awareness of the being that you really are. Understanding it kind of this way. You have a mind, but you are not your mind. A mind is your possession. That is what you have. That's what you own. So you really don't want your possession or that which you own to own you. Do you? Ask him that question.
Hast du verstanden?
Ob ich mein besitze.
Ja, das geht darum. Du besitzt den Mind.
Ja.
Der Mind besitzt nicht du. Die Frage ist, willst du, dass der Mind dich besitzt? Nee, ob du
Das möchte.
also du hast einen Mind, du besitzt einen Mind. Er fragt jetzt, oder willst du, dass der Mind dich besitzt?
No, also fragt sich.
It doesn't matter.
So you see, being here in India is a wonderful opportunity to no longer be owned by your mind, but get in touch with how you can own your mind. Okay? All right. Namaste. Does anyone else have any question? Maybe this might bring up something for someone else. In this morning's quiet time, it is always a good opportunity to be able, if you're able, to make the distinction between you, the self you actually are, and your mind. Really consider that point. It would seem like, well, what's the point? What is the point? The point is to look to see, to what extent you have become identified with your mind and incorrectly believing that the mind is you. You see, the fact is, that's what the majority of us have done and have been doing. What the majority of us have been doing is meditating a separate self-identity. In other words, we have identified with our body and our mind as being ourself. This has become a habit. And if you will look at it, you will see that it is a very strong habit. A long-established habit. One that is very insidious, treacherous actually, an unfortunate habit. Because as long as we stay identified with the body and the mind, incorrectly believing that they are the self, we are putting ourselves at the effect of the body and the mind and have to suffer the consequences of all of the experiences and events that the body and the mind are going through. That means all of the likes and dislikes that we have recorded and identified within our mind. Whatever has been programmed in the mind, very much like a computer, it's going to play back, it's going to come right back out, and we are the ones that have to deal with that, and we don't recognize that this is what we've programmed into our own mind. And this program of our own mind gets triggered. It gets triggered by the events, by the situations that we find ourselves in, by the persons, places, and things that we find ourselves having to deal with. Now, when this happens, people say things that we don't like, they do things that we don't like, and we don't even recognize that our not liking them is because we have programmed into our mind a dislike. And then we project this dislike that is programmed in our own mind onto the person that we think has done something to us or said something that we didn't like. We don't recognize that it is we that is disliking what's going on in us. And that which is going on in us is the problem. It's not what someone said or what someone did. It's what we're thinking and what we're feeling that's going on in us simply because we're identified with our own mind and the way our own mind is programmed. And then look how much anger and resentment we can have towards persons, places, and things outside of us that are only just doing what they do naturally to them, but we may think they're doing it to us. And what's really happening is we're doing to us what we say they're doing. They're just like a light switch. The light switch turns on the light in us, lights up the program that we don't like, and we think they're doing it. We're doing it. It's happening in us. And that's the way it happens. The fact is, that's the way it's always happened. We always already are the source and cause of our own experience. We think someone else did something that we're experiencing. The experience is going on in us. Not out there. Everyone else's experience is going on in them, not in us. How many times has someone thought something about you that was incorrect? You were not thinking and feeling the way they're thinking and feeling, but they believe what they're thinking and feeling to be the case about you. Just see it. Now, what is the solution? Very simple. Do not identify with your mind as being you. You have a mind, and your mind has gotten programmed in a certain way. Look and see the distinction between you and your mind, and learn how to abide in the self that you are, which is back behind, so to speak, prior to your mind, free of your mind, not at the effect of your mind. And you can live and function and be happy, free, and at peace anywhere with anyone. And have no problem. When you're living free in your true nature as the self that you actually are, that we all are, then you have to give rise to the thought of an upset in order to be upset. Look and see. Very simply. Can you be upset without the thought of upset? Does anybody understand what I just said? Now, if there's anyone here that doesn't understand English, and you have a friend here who understands your language and understands English as well, please share what I just said with your friend. Don't be bashful. Be a friend. Take a moment. Be a friend. I'll ask the question again. Is it possible for you to be upset without the thought of being upset? And do we see? It's not possible to be upset without having the thought of upset. See it? So if we abide in the awareness, the self that we are, free of the mind, not identified with the mind, making the distinction between you, the self, and your mind, you can ever abide in freedom, peace, and joy, and not be at the effect of what is occurring in the world, because you're going to have to think about what's occurring in the world and give rise to it as an upset if you think it's upsetting. That's pretty basic and very important. Now the question is, would you like to abide in the awareness of being that you actually are all the time? How do you go about that? How can you accomplish abiding in the pure awareness of being that you are all the time, free of identification with your body and your mind? Very simply, by the process that has been shared with us by, in my view, the greatest master who has ever lived, Sri Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. All masters, in my view, are very important and very helpful and in their own way great. But in my view, Bhagavan is the greatest of the great. Why? Jesus Christ is very great. I have great love and devotion to the Master Jesus Christ, and did for many years, and still do, but for many years before I came to know Bhagavan Ramana. Jesus said, "Follow me." Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you." In other words, you can be happy all the time if you just abide in the kingdom of God. And that's what Jesus said, and that's what Jesus meant, and that's what Jesus taught, I'm sure, his disciples. But there was one key factor there. How do you do it? How do you do that? He didn't tell us how, as far as it's recorded anywhere. He did say you will know the truth, and when you know it, that will make you free. Okay. I would like to know the truth, not just have a glimpse of the truth. I would like to know the truth, not just believe the truth. There's a difference between knowing and believing. Would you all agree?
Yes.
There's a difference between knowing and believing. So it's not a matter of believing, it's a matter of knowing. Sri Bhagavan Ramana has shared with us the way to know and to be the truth. Not to believe the truth, but to be the truth. How? By the process of inquiry. If you're identified with the body and the mind, which most of us are in the beginning, or somewhere along the line, we might have fallen out of our true nature. In my view, most of us were born capable of already knowing our true nature. But unfortunately, we were born into a world of people who had already forgotten their true nature. And these who had forgotten their true nature helped us to forget ours. Not set in judgment, not set in criticism, just set as a fact Probably our parents meant well, but they had forgotten their true nature. Our granddaddy and grandmothers probably meant well, but they probably too had forgotten their real nature. So who is going to awaken us to our real nature? Our guru, our spiritual teacher. And very fortunate if we have met our guru who can make this distinction for us, who's made this distinction for himself or herself, and can share that distinction by being the true nature, by being in and as the true nature. Now, Bhagavan Ramana is such a one, but not only is he such a one, he shared with us how to awaken it in ourselves, not just to depend upon him. He's there, he's present, we can depend upon him, but there are times in which we might tend to forget, and we need to learn how to remember for ourselves the true nature of the being that we are, so that we're not having to rely on anyone, only on the true nature of the being that we are within ourselves. And Bhagavan Ramana has given us the way, and it's called Atmavichara in Sanskrit, self-inquiry. In Aham, we teach self-inquiry, the same process that Bhagavan Ramana has shared with the world. Now, Aham happens to be an organization, a community, a conscious community. People who are living in this conscious community are practicing the process of self-inquiry, as well as other processes that Aham shares and teaches that makes it very easy to remember the true nature of the being that we all are. Self-inquiry is primary. You have a thought, any thought. Where did that thought come from? Take a hold of the thought, don't let go of the thought, and while holding the thought, ask who had the thought, and the only answer that you can have, the only correct answer that you can have is this thought occurred to me. I had this thought. Now, pursue this I itself that had to be there along with this thought in order for you to have the thought. This I that has the thought happens to be the mind. So from whence did this mind come? Take this inquiry further, more deeply. I had the thought. I, who am I? From whence? Where from did this I? Where is it occurring? What is holding up this I? What is sustaining this I? What is supplying this I with consciousness? Stay with this inquiry and require the answer to be revealed to you. And if you stay with it, what's going to happen is the I, as you trace it and follow it to the source from which it is arising, the I itself, what happens? It disappears. It no longer is. What remains is the self, the awareness that we are. This is it. But how do you make the distinction when it is in the beginning that I'm in an awareness, there is no I, but it seems like there is an I because I feel like I'm in an awareness. So we were still in the mind. Who's having this awareness? I. Go back to the inquiry. I? From whence is this I? And make that inquiry right there in a tight place. That's what you learn in our teaching, how to do that. And you see, in order to do it, you've got to be in it for a while. We have learned in the home, it's necessary to be in this presence, to be in this consciousness for an extended period of time in order to make this distinction, to be enabled to know this awareness apart from this I. Not a guess, not hoping, knowing. Knowing the difference. Abiding in the difference. Staying here present in the difference. Right now, this moment. Be with me in this difference. Make this distinction that there is this awareness here that we all are, that is prior to thought. Right now, this moment. Notice the moment thought tends to rise. You can watch it when it happens. Just don't think. Just watch it and stay in this awareness. Stay present right now in this stillness, in this silence, in this very presence itself, prior to thought, free of thought, in no way at the effect of thought, right now, this moment. I would suggest that in joining me in this awareness, which incidentally is where I live in this awareness as this awareness. I would suggest that you join me in living this awareness as this awareness forever. Don't go back to the mind. Stay here with me in the no mind. Now, I can certainly appreciate that right there a thought wants to come up. The thought that probably wants to come up is, how can I stay in this awareness all the time and function, go back to my business and take care of my business? Well, very simply, this awareness always is before the mind is. The mind is dependent upon this awareness. This awareness is not dependent upon the mind. This awareness is who we are. And when you practice abiding in this awareness, staying in this awareness, recognizing this awareness to be your home, this is where you truly live, then it's simple enough to just go to work every day and take your home with you. I'm speaking in metaphors. I'm speaking in analogies. You can learn while abiding in this awareness, as this awareness, you can learn now how to make your mind into your servant, into your employee. You can put it to work. And you be the boss. Stay the boss. Don't let your mind be the boss. You can choose what thoughts that you want to identify with, and those that you do not want to identify with. That is possible. To me, I don't identify with any. I watch them all playfully and can see the humor in it all. I can see the humor even in what appears to be the tragedy. Now, that does not mean that I laugh at funerals. But I can see the humor in what appears to be a tragedy. I see how everything fits together. Everything is a part of everything else. Everything operates perfectly in its own way. There really is never anything out of place. Even that which appears to be out of place is not actually out of place. It's a perfect expression of itself as it is in the instant, in the moment. And abiding in the pure awareness of being, I observe it and see it, and it does not touch me. You're capable of that just as well as I am. I do not have a corner on the market. I just don't own it. It's not mine. I just have access to it. I avail myself of it. It is available for all of us. It always has been, and it always will be. No one can take it from you. Once you have awakened to the true nature of the being that we all are, no one can take that away from you. Peace, freedom, and joy now prevail as the natural state of being. Not as a result of anything. Not I'm peaceful because I'm not finding any turmoil. Not that I'm happy because I got my own way. Peace, freedom, and joy is the natural state of the being, the self that we are. It's just a matter of awakening into this awareness, this being that we are. It's ever present. We have never left it. We can't leave it, no more than you can leave space. Can your body ever leave space? No, it's impossible. Likewise, we can never leave ourselves. We can never not be this that we are. What occurs is we identify with what we're not as though that is what we are. We identify with our body and our mind as though that is what we are, and that is not what we are, it's what we're not. If we stop identifying with what we're not, and never again identify with what we're not, what do we have to do to be what we are? Any hints? We simply and naturally abide in that which we are. I would pray that all of you are able to understand my words. I'm sorry I'm not able to speak in your language if it's different than my language. And I hope you have the opportunity to understand the words that I'm speaking, because my words, not to be believed, but to be heard as pointers, as indicators of this awareness that we are. My words are only to point to what they are indicating. Please, do not take what I say as another system of beliefs. Do not program your mind with what I'm saying and make a belief out of it. Use what I'm saying only to point to what my words indicate. The actual experience. And have for yourself the experience that I am sharing with you. Does anyone have any question about it? To the best of your ability, stop all thought and simply abide in the awareness that is prior to thought. This awareness, this presence, is quite pregnant, full. Feel it. Nod your heads if you're getting what I'm saying. this quality of stillness, this consciousness of pure being that we all are, is lived and shared by those in Aham who are involved in our teaching and who have dedicated themselves to living this teaching as the basis of their spiritual life. All of you who are here today that are guests, we welcome you. We're happy to have you. Know that Aham is a conscious community, that if you are into living as the self, from the self, and being the self, that's what happens. That is what occurs in Aham. And we invite you to consider it if you would care to consider a life of happiness, freedom, and joy, not at the effect of anything occurring in the world around you. Abide in this awareness, as this awareness, and be happy. Namaste.
Namaste.